What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And my new friend, all the way from Australia, is Bobbi Barrington. Hello, Bobbi.
Hello, Gary. How you doing?
I'm living the dream, sister. You know me. I am living the dream. I always have. So we've got so much great stuff to talk about. You've got such a fascinating story. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm just going to read your quick introduction and we'll get cooking. If that's okay with you.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Everybody, we have Bobbi Barrington. Imagine spending 26 years in the wrong marriage, 40 years in the wrong career, and 59 years in the wrong body. That was Bobbi Barrington's reality until she chose change. Now at 65, in just a few short years, Bobbi has completely reinvented herself, proving that transformation is possible at any age. A speaker, storyteller, and coach, she shares powerful insights on courage, resilience, and stepping into the unknown, lessons that apply to us all. Bobbi is a trans woman who has a message that's not about gender. It's about the universal challenges we all face, fear, uncertainty, and the courage to create the future we truly want. Through her journey and transition, she has gained deep insights and fresh perspectives, including into womanhood, emotional intelligence, and personal power, perspectives that shape her storytelling and conversations she sparks. So, currently, in a solo road trip across Australia, Bobbi is bringing her message of reinvention and possibility to stages, podcasts, and communities everywhere. Bobbi is a living, breathing embodiment of transformation, stepping into the unknown, falling down, and getting back up, embracing the messiness of the journey, and proving that we are never a finished product, but always learning, always growing, and always evolving. That's awesome. I love every bit of that good yumminess. There's so much there, but I can't wait to jump in, but I have to do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have to. I'll shut up, I promise. One more thing I have to do is because Bobbi, we're the What If You Could podcast. So, Bobbi Barrington, what is your What If You Could?
Do you know, Gary, I think that used to be me who asked what if I could. I think me now, like that intro there, that chick, she's pretty awesome. It sounds,
It sounded great while I read it. I'm like, wow, shit, she's pretty awesome.
oh my God, is this me? But my mindset is now that I can. And so the question now is how? How do I? But even deeper than that, I don't even need to know how. I just need to focus on what I want, focus on a vision, keep stepping, keep showing up, doing the doing, and trusting, ultimately, trusting in the path that appears before me. I already believe there's bits of me that don't, and this is the work. This has been the work, like, so I'm a trans woman, and I say that I've had two transitions. It's not exactly true because we're all transitioning all the time in all kinds of ways, and the people we were yesterday is not the same as who will be tomorrow. But in my narrative here, there's the gender, and then there's the mindset. And the mindset is kind of intertwined with the gender, but loosely, like the gender, the body, the presentation, the socialization, the community I live in, the how I show up, my energy, that part of my gender is pretty complete. Like there's still emotional challenges come up around that. But the other side of that is the mindset. And so when you read my intro, like 40 years in the wrong career, that that mindset that kept me stuck in a lifetime, irrespective of gender, kept me stuck in a lifetime of fear, scarcity, crappy money mindset, people pleasing. Like I was in the wrong career because of my father, really, and I was an accountant. I am so not an accountant. I was the worst accountant in the world. I have no interest. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in doing the same thing all the time. I have no interest in maintenance stuff. I want to create. I want to speak. I want to inspire. I want to motivate. And it took me 60 something years to discover that that was my truth. That was what lights me up. And this, speaking with you, speaking to your audience, this lights me up. This is my oh, my power, I think, like using the leverage of my words to help people change just a bit or a lot, but just to loosen the grip on a reality and create a different destiny and, literally create your own future, if you like. So by and large, I do believe that there is still parts of my conditioning through my life, through those 60 years. I'm 66 now, the bio's a year off.
Just 1 year. You touched on so many things. You showed me a tattoo before we jumped on. How long have you had that tattoo?
Oh, I've got a few tattoos now,
Just the one on your arm. We don't want to see them all. Well, we will later when we go off the camera, but we can't do it now. So,
Yeah,
um,
I've got that one also.
I love the whale, but the one on
Yeah,
your
there you
arm in
go.
French that you showed me, what
The one on my
is,
arm.
yeah,
Okay,
how long
so
have you had that one?
a few years now, 3 years or
Please.
so. Yeah.
And
And
tell me what it says again in French.
so it's French. I speak French. So this is like in creating the life of my dreams, one aspect of that is I want to be fluent in French. And for whatever reason, it's been a lifelong thing. And I do that by keeping in the game. I speak to a lot of people and they say, "Oh, one day I want to do this. One day I want to play the guitar. I want to sing. I want to speak a language," sort of thing. And I'll say, "What are you doing about it?" And they say, "Well, nothing really." Well, pull out your phone, download Duolingo, whatever, and let today be the day you start. That's that easy. Start, don't stop. And I've got a Duolingo streak of today, I think it's 2,250 days. And that's over 6 years of every single day focusing on what I want. That's what I want. That's what I do. I get feedback. I gamify it. Some days it's better, some days it's not, but I stay in the game. I stay in the arena. So this tattoo, it says, au-delà du possible. And in French, that means, in English, that means beyond possibility. So for me, I feel that I have changed everything about me, almost everything. I've still got residual mindsets that I'm working through, if you like. But I've changed my body, I've changed my country, side of the country I live in, I've changed my business, I've changed my community, I've driven 2,200 miles across the country, packed my van, started a new life in a new part of the world. I've changed everything, and I feel that this is a as an example setting of the possibility to change your life, change your destiny in a moment with a decision, in terms of what if you could? Well, you can. You can if you believe.
What
So
is
I
that
just,
word? You used the word creation. What does
yeah,
that word creation mean to you?
creation. Let me just finish my
Oh, I'm sorry.
tattoo.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, because it says au-delà de possible, which means beyond possibility. And for me, that means the possibility of all of the infinite possibilities that you can't see. You don't know the path, you don't know the way, but they are there nonetheless, and you just haven't had the inspiration, the conversation, the universe hasn't shown you this thing. You know, like in life when you get weighed down with all the stuff and and I've got all of these problems and like I've got these debts and this financial thing and this relationship thing like that and the mindset and your catastrophe. Well, this is me. I catastrophize about the future, and then one thing happens and it all lifts. The whole thing changes. That's the possibility you couldn't even imagine at the time. And maybe it's a business idea. Maybe it's a date you went on and all of a sudden the world is different. Like that's what I mean. Beyond possibility that you haven't even imagined. So trust in the universe.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
love
so
that.
that's
Trust. I mean, what a powerful word, right? You would think it would be so easy to just trust things, but I I'm terrible with trust. I basically don't trust anything. I'm horrible with it. I work on it. I try to be more trusting of people and things in the world, but it's difficult for me. But trust is like such a
Harry,
massive word.
what if it was easy for you?
Well, it could be easy for me. Um, it would be easier for me if people didn't keep letting you down. It'd be easier for me, and I could trust anything. I could trust that the sun's going to come up in the morning. I could trust that it's night is going to come. I could trust the trees are going to grow. I could trust that if we don't kill all the bees will be around. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can trust. There's a lot of things that I could put the power into of trust. Yet there's also a lot of things that are difficult to trust. You could trust something, but you don't have control over the trust. I trust what my capabilities are, and I trust what I have, what's possible for me. As far as trusting things on the outside, it's a lot more difficult.
So I'm hearing a story that
That'll have to be for another podcast because I want to know about Bobbi Barrington. We certainly don't want to dig into my phobias and my
yeah.
my my head's a scary place to be, Bobby. We don't want to
No,
go there.
no, but it's a great, a great insight into language and meaning and the stories we tell ourselves that we think are truth. And are we sure? Is it really the truth? Is it my truth or is it a truth that I've learned from somewhere else? This is the back of my business card.
Tell a better story. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, because we tell ourselves the story. It's like you use the word fear. I want to get back to creation, but well, since we've left that for the moment, you brought up the word fear when you were talking about your
Yeah.
tattoo, and fear and trust,
Mm,
right? I mean, we fear things that don't ever happen. We,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, we abuse ourselves over things and we fear things that's false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Yet there's a lot of real fear in the world. I mean, there's a lot of real
Hmm.
fear in our lives, but that's not what we focus on. We focus on the make-believe fear just to drive ourselves insane, like you said, because our story that we tell ourselves creates
Mm,
fear sometimes within us.
mm. Oh, look, and that's been me too. Like, and still is. And this is, yeah, in my story, this has been the most extraordinary adventure. This journey of mine. And so I lived 60 odd years as a man, and I lived with a man's, well, the socialization that I have around emotional regulation, like as a man in my community of guys, men, like, and my ability to vocalize and verbalize my emotions, to be vulnerable around my emotions, to have a language around emotions. It wasn't the tradition that I lived in. Like, we would not talk about that stuff. We would suppress it or ignore it or pretend it didn't happen or go away and, have a drink or something like that. Or, like that was, there was really no real capacity to talk about emotions. And then I transitioned, and I had such a beautiful landing. And this is why I'm living here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, because of one person who was my coach, who came into my world. And like, it's never been about gender. It's never been about a gender. It's about me as a woman now inhabiting a world of women where we talk about emotions and we talk about, all the stuff that's us as human beings, like the fears, and that shitty stuff that comes up and there is no denying it, there is no suppressing it, there's no making it wrong, there's no judgment around it. And so it was 4 years ago I started with a particular coach, and I was trying to make money. Like, I'd left my family, I've now divorced, and I was caring for my mum who had dementia, and I was in Adelaide in South Australia. And I was trying to create a life, create an income, create a business, because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, always, my whole life. And I was making no money, and I was struggling, and I was forcing and pushing and doing more and working later and going to bed later. And I had piles of emails, 30,000 emails I hadn't answered, a table full of letters that I didn't have the courage to open because I was frightened, particularly around money, particularly about, like the emotional challenges that I'd had through the divorce, through moving country. I was in the UK, in London, moved to Australia, and it was so difficult, and like the wheels fell off my marriage, off my family. And so I was struggling and feeling lost and feeling like, what's the point? But underneath it all, I always felt that there was something important for me. I have always known that I'm here for something, and I just couldn't find it by myself. So I started with this new coach, and all of us, and she got me to stop the doing and start being, stop the controlling and start trusting. And she got me to go and sit on a hill and do nothing, don't listen to any music, no podcast, no nothing, right? And my own intuition, the wisdom in my body, being in my head so much and forgetting that, like, my head knows fuck all, to be honest. I don't know if I can say that, but
Of course you can.
and I can't outthink stuff. I think I can outthink. We live in a community and a world that thinks we can think our way through things, but I have learned that I can't think my way through things. I feel my way. Like the emotions in my body, I feel them, I process them, I have learned so much. And so sitting on my hill, all of these ideas came up. So in terms of what if you could, I'm sitting with, I can't do this because that's my reason. I can't make money. I can't make a sale. How can I possibly open these letters and things because I've got this to do, and all of this stuff's going on, and I just stopped, and all of a sudden, ah, I am actually successful. I have done all of this, and I've got a mountain of evidence to show that I can. All my life, I can. I've done that. 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 And and oh, I could go and do that. I could go and do that. I could do that. And I got started to get excited. Ah, wow. And she said to me, Bobby, like all of these ideas, what lights you up? And I said, I feel that I will have more of an impact in this world with what I say than with what I do. And that was where speaking came back into my life. Motivational speaking, public speaking, helping other people see that they can too. And they always have. And there's a ton of evidence to show that they could. And here you are thinking that you can't because it's the government, it's the economy, it's I'm too old, I'm too young, it's too late. Like I don't have the qualifications, I don't have the resources, blah 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 blah. All that stuff. And so me, I'm not doing accounting anymore. I speak, I use words, I use language to tell stories. And stories that, like bypass your critical faculties and get into your brain and say, oh, yeah, she's like me. So my gender story is not about gender. It's about us as human beings having an emotional experience on this planet exactly the same. And the courage that we bring, and like overcoming adversity, and like you said, you get let down by people and stuff like that. This is life. This is stuff happens. People don't keep their words sometimes. People are not in integrity sometimes and stuff. Now you get to choose the meaning that you give to that. You get to choose your response. You get to choose how you show up and whether you are going to show up as the highest expression of yourself or go and play that crappy little game of you said this, you said that, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I talk about, creating your reality. You create the reality in yourself, in your body, in your energy, in your persona, how you show up.
I love about what you say about transition. And it's not a gender issue, it's a human issue. And I've been in re-fascinated with butterflies lately because these two butterflies have shown up in my backyard, these two yellow butterflies, and they just fly together. I know they're in love and I know they're having sex. It's awesome. And they're just cruising around, and I just am fascinated by these yellow butterflies. So I've been getting into butterflies because am in a real transition myself. And I love that you're saying that because I've been posting a lot about the butterflies, how the caterpillar, you know, it it's not a beautiful transition for the caterpillar. It's painful. And like you said, it becomes a pile of goo before it becomes this beautiful butterfly, right? I mean, it's not an easy transition to go from caterpillar to butterfly. And so I tell people, I'm in the goo stage right now. I'm a big pile of goo right now. But I know that the other side of that painful gooey mess is this beautiful butterfly. So tell me more about your transition as far as what was it like? I mean, what was the time where you said, it's time for me. My caterpillar's ready to grow some wings and say hasta luego, the rest of you guys.
I love that you're in the goo. And and I tell you why, because you're aware that you're in the goo, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're aware that it's uncomfortable, and that is the access point to you for contemplation. Why is it gooey? and staying in that discomfort, that's an emotion. The goo isn't going to kill you. Not,
Nope.
neither is the emotion about the goo.
Mm-mm.
But you can still tell yourself stories about the goo and oh, I hate the goo and I wish the goo would go away and he's got better goo than me.
Why isn't my goo like his goo, or
Yeah, yeah.
my goo's so icky and his goo's so beautiful, right? And
Yeah.
that's the other challenge of, like you were saying about, the fear and the trust and things like that, and what you've gone through and what you've discovered is like, really comparing ourselves to others. Like when you questioned me about my trust issues, changing, comparing yourself to others is not a real great way to get things done.
It's
Right.
awful.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So walk me through. Now, it doesn't have to be any personal thing, but just on another level about transition, regardless of, man to woman, woman to man,
yeah,
human
yeah,
to
yeah.
whatever. Just I love the fact that you say your feelings about the transition in life.
Oh, I didn't choose to be trans. I didn't choose this to be my life's journey. I didn't choose, like it wasn't the plan. It and it wasn't even something that I was aware of when I was young. It was into my 40s that it just started like bubbling up in my life as something. What I have chosen to do though is to be alive,
Mhm.
to use my story um, as a metaphor for possibility for anyone to be able to change because change is constant, as we all know. You know,
Yeah.
nothing is nothing is constant as change. Is that how it goes? Yeah,
Something
and
like that.
yeah,
Change, yeah, change is constant.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no such thing.
yeah,
Nothing stays static.
and also because um, like if I go out to the shops, no one knows. If I went to karaoke last night and I was singing Creep. And so there's me in
I
this black,
love
there's me in
it.
my little black dress and my little black fedora hat, and like singing things, and people, I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm a tall woman, and I've got purple hair, and like from a
Let's just say
life.
you stand out, okay? Purple hair at 6 feet tall. Let's just say you stand out. And when you wear heels, do you like to wear the big pumps so that you're 6'4"?
I'm not quite that high, but I do wear heels. I do like, it's very elegant on your calf, and
Yes.
like for ladies.
Yes, we all love a
Yeah,
woman with beautiful heels and calves. Absolutely.
yeah.
My wife was a complete shoe maven when we met, and luckily her back went out, so she doesn't wear them because she's taller than me.
Luckily.
Right. So she'd wear these 5 inch heels, and I called them "come fuck me" pumps because she looked great in them. But I've tried them. They're really not easy to walk in.
They are not. They're not. They take practice. I started doing some modeling last year, and I did some photo shoots around that. But we've we've got
We
distracted
digress.
again, Gary. Like
So
so the transit.
back to your butterfly story.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, talking about tattoos, I also have a dragonfly.
Ah, I love dragonflies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
loved
has
them.
that has meaning for me in terms of transition and change, and larvae to, how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
like this is what I this is what I talk about all the time. I talk about authenticity, like
Oh,
and this me, I love this me, and I didn't love who I was before, and I have chosen to do what it takes to become authentic in myself and in my body and in my mind and in how I show up and, the expression I put on my face and, how I greet people, everything. I get to choose all of that. And I have never been happier, ever. I have never been more fulfilled. I have never been more free. And I have never been more comfortable in my body than I am now. It was expensive. It was. But actually, my physical transition was the easy one. That's the easy one. It's the psychological transition, which is the hard bit. The physical one was like a project plan for me. And there were key points, key milestones, about project plans and Gantt charts and all that stuff. There are critical paths in there, and then there are like key milestones in it. The critical things in my project were hormones, were growing my hair, that took time, were electrolysis. So I have no hair, and I'm a face and elsewhere, but we don't go there.
Pictures or it didn't happen, okay? Pictures or it didn't happen.
And that was kind of relatively easy in an emotional sense because I just have to keep paying money, and then I could go and get some surgery, and then I could go and get more electrolysis, and then I get these things done, right? And it's only in retrospect, looking back at my life, that I see that I've really been very feminine through all of it, right back to the beginning. And I didn't know when I was 2 or 5 or 7, and when children often do know, and that wasn't me. And it was like late 40s sort of thing, 50-ish, that I started feeling that I should have been born a girl. And I remember like walking, I was in London, and I just like sitting on the tube there, like feeling very feminine about myself. And I started doing little things, with hair and clothes and so forth. And I don't know why. And I don't really care why. But, and that was like the start of some years of questioning. And eventually I went to see a doctor. I moved to Sydney in Australia with my family, and I went to see a doctor and said, I want to be more feminine in my body. And I didn't know what that meant, except actually I like to have no hair and I like to have boobs. So I got no hair and boobs for sure.
You got a sweet rack, okay? So the doctor did a great job. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I'm
it
a butt
wasn't
man,
that doctor.
but I'm a butt man, so I don't look at
Oh,
you.
okay. But that doctor, that was humiliating, that experience. That was a really nasty experience, and I walked out ashamed and embarrassed. And he said, "Well, why don't you try cross-dressing?" And like it was so not understanding who I was, and I was trying to work this out. And so it was 3 more years before I summoned the courage to go and see another doctor, and she was wonderful. Tanya. Tanya was another doctor, and I didn't feel ashamed or embarrassed by her, and I felt seen and validated, and so that was the start of a process that led me to the week when everything changed for me in one particular week in 2018 when I saw a counsellor, and there I started forming a vision of who I could become as a woman in a swimsuit on a beach with hair on my shoulders and wind blowing over my skin. And that's my reality. And that's a dream come true. So in terms of what if you could, dreams do come true, Gary. Dreams come true all the time. Dreams are not for other people, and that's not reality. Like you make your reality. I made that dream come true, and I'm still making dreams come true, and there are many more dreams for me, and no one can stop me make my dreams come true except me. I'm the one, I'm the one with the pen in my hand who writes the story of the rest of my life. Starting right now, I get to choose every moment, every aspect, every piece of the rest of my life. Yeah, and
Well, I love how one of my favorite topics is the authentic self. And I
yeah,
love how you bring that up, how you discovered it in yourself, because in this world that we live in, it's very rare that people not only discover their authentic selves, but expose their authentic selves because we love to live behind the mask because we're so fearful of keeping up with all the stuff. And so for you to find your authentic self and release the person that you're the most comfortable being, is such a beautiful thing. It's very difficult. It really is. Millions and millions, the percentage is probably 90% of the world doesn't live in their authentic self. So it takes a lot to get there and to free yourself to find it.
yeah. Well, like it raises so many emotions.
Mm.
Like even what you're doing, like you have created this podcast, and it's a creation, and it's in the public space, and every time you put yourself out into the public space you create an opportunity for people to throw stones at you, like you take a risk. You
Oh
take a
yeah.
risk. You know, every person who writes something and puts it out into the public, or a piece of art or piece of music, you know, fashion, you invite rejection, you invite judgment, you invite criticism. And that's the same with me too, like the things that I'm posting at the moment because of my free offer that I've got about feeling alive again. And sometimes, especially around the trans side, some people come back and try to diminish me, try to make me wrong, try to put me back in my box, kind of thing. And just the other day, this fellow said, I talk about women, I talk about women's experience and how women often get to a certain point in life, and men too, but women are kind of more my thing. Um, and they feel like, is this all there is? Is this what life is meant to be? And what happened to the dreams, and starting to feel disillusioned, and like, is this like the rest of my life? And he said, how do you know that? Because you were a former man, kind of thing. And like, there's a part of me that feels offended by that. There's very, very briefly, and I can feel a bit hurt and shut down by that. But I get to choose whether to stay in that place. How I choose to respond. Respond is such a beautiful word, rather than react. React. I don't react, and I don't fly off a, you bastard, how would you know, like, blah blah blah. But it's an opportunity to explain, how is it that I could know this? And how is it that you don't know this, actually? Because you're a human too. And if you open your mind, open your ears, listen to what people are saying around you, you would know too what people are saying. And if you have the if you are able to ask perceptive questions, intelligent questions, like people will tell you these things, but I think the bottom line here is I actually care. I care about people and what kind of life experience they have and whether they are fulfilled and lit up by the quality of life that they have. I care about that because that was not me. That 26 years wrong marriage, 40 years. It wasn't wrong. Like don't get me wrong here. None of that was wrong per se. It's just that it's a kind of nice thing that I can say that and it rattles off the tongue a little bit. So my marketing message, if you like. None of it's wrong. I have 3 children and I adore them. I haven't seen them for 6 years. They don't talk to me, but I don't regret any of that ever. But I can get to choose what meaning I put on that. Like what was the gift in that marriage? What were the joys? What were the lessons that I learned in life from this career in accountancy, contracting, feeling so frightened? I was really, that's been a big word for me throughout my life, fright. And it goes back to when I was a child, and my father was an alcoholic, and I learnt through conditioning, like all of us, childhood trauma,
Yeah.
people pleasing, keeping your head down, going into, like freeze and fawn, the emotional nervous system regulation, freeze and fawn, and that was how I learnt to stay safe in my life, through not being seen, not standing out, not attracting attention. And so now that was not the authentic me. That was not me. That was the conditioned me. This
Mhm.
me, this me. So it's not about gender, nothing to do with gender. This me who has done so much work around understanding what was the conditioning in me and becoming aware of it and then choosing to make different decisions, choosing that no longer tell a better story. I used to be an introvert. I used to say I was an introvert. Now I've done the Myers, I've done the Myers-Briggs thing is apparently I'm 91% extrovert, you know?
Well, when you show up in your hot heels and your little skirt and your purple hair to do karaoke, it's hard to be an introvert, all right, my dear. That makes you an instant extrovert.
Who else knows their number?
I love karaoke. Don't even get me started. A lot of what you said, it completely switched me from where I was going to go again, because I have to come back to this one to where I wanted to go before is creation, soul, spirit, being an energy force. I mean, we are what we are. We're the universe, our spirit, our energy, our soul. The outside shell can be whatever the outside shell is, but we're created as what we are, right? The fact of the childhood trauma, God, anybody's had an alcoholic father that you're just scared to death of, scare the shit out of you, and yelling and the whole business with that is tough. But living through life and then knowing a little bit something's off, and then realizing it later in life, not at the end of life for sure, you're only halfway through, but you went through a whole new creation, really. You found the strength to do that. That really sucks about that doctor who made you feel that way, the first surgeon that you went to. I love that you found one who was there for you, to do that, to help you bring out yourselves, to have what you wanted to have, because you said we're only going around once here. You sure as shit don't want to end it. Like I've said this a million times, people are probably sick of me saying this, but Zig Ziglar has always said don't die with your music still in you. And I love that saying because we do, right? You're not going to die. Bobbi is not going to die with her music still in her. That's for sure.
Oh, that's my intention, in like um Les Brown in his book. I love he's a great speaker, Les,
Yeah.
I'd like to speak half as well as he would actually, but
Mm.
he talks about, getting to the end of your days. And it's one of the things I put in my speeches. What is life to you? Is it meant to be a struggle and an ordeal or something to get through? Like, oh my God, I've got to the end of my life safely. I safely got to death, and I made it.
Wow, congratulations. How
But
exciting that was.
but but the flip side of that is, I want to get to the end of my days and totally spent, totally all not wasted, totally exhausted, if you like, totally
Well,
exhausted,
there
and
is that quote that you've heard where it's like, I want to slide into my grave with champagne in one hand, a kazoo in the other hand, singing, "Woohoo! What a
well,
ride!"
that's the
Right?
one, like
Right? You
like
know which one. We're both trying to hit the same one. We just can't think of the words. But yeah,
life is
that's
a roller
exactly
coaster.
how we
Yeah.
want to
Woo!
end the life.
Yeah.
I tell people, it's just don't don't waste away. Don't you want to make sure you're spent when you're done. Don't waste it on stupid shit like worry and fear and being afraid to be our authentic self. I mean,
But it's
we waste so much time with that. We waste so much energy with that.
yeah, but it's not stupid shit. This is like we all we all make decisions with the best information that we have, with the like yeah. So
We do the best we
in
can with
in,
what we had at the time.
in in terms of transitioning, so all of my transitions, like even today, like after this call, I'm going to do some journaling around some attachment that I have, some addiction to struggle, some addiction to the story of my past life, like I'd like a bit more income at the moment, to be honest.
Yes,
Who
yes,
wouldn't, right?
yes.
And and one of the options for me is to go and get some kind of job, J-O-B job, just over broke
It's a
job sort of
four-letter
thing.
word. I don't like
Yeah,
your
yeah,
J-O-B.
yeah. And I have so much meaning that I attach to that word because of my past stories, because of my past experience, because I hated it, and I put energy into the hating of the thing, and that is a real access point to an attachment to a story, story about job and the meaning, and I'm an entrepreneur and I shouldn't have to do this and blah, 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 blah. And that's a point for me to say, actually, that might be the best thing for me to do right now without attaching any of that energy to it, because it helps me be safe, it helps me regulate my nervous system, and it helps me offer some kind of service to some other people, like in using my skills and talents in a different kind of way. So this is a part of my growth, my evolution in going into these, becoming aware of the things that crop up in my life, the triggers, the stories I talk about them, and then going to depth and say, why is that? What part of my core identity has that triggered? So I have core wounds of fear, embarrassment, and not good enoughness. I've done so much work in my personal growth that I'm aware of my woundings, my childhood things, and I'm aware when they get triggered, and I also have strategies for getting myself out of the trigger, knowing what the payoff has been, knowing what the cost is for me, and knowing and being able to choose to make a different decision in my life and actually move through. So I move through triggers a lot quicker than I used to get triggered by stuff, and I'd be a soggy mess in the corner for a day and a half, crying and hurt, and it, not my fault, and they did this to me, and blah 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 blah. And that's not me anymore. It is a bit. There's some of that. Can't deny it. But I get out of this stuff much quicker. This is the bit that I was talking about earlier, like transitioning from a male tradition to the world of women that I live in now. I did NLP training, so my coach was my NLP trainer. I had no idea how much I would evolve just doing that training, how much was for me. I pushed back on it, so I don't need to be a coach. And then I discovered, my God, I've been a coach all my life. My speaking is coaching. It's moving people from where they are to towards where they want to go. And it's been absolutely transformational. And this emotional maturity, the emotional vocabulary that I have, like I read in Brené Brown, I think it was, that most people know about three emotions: happy, sad, and pissed off. And I sat down
I try to do as little of the last one as possible. I try not to do pissed off anymore, and I've changed pissed off to laughter. And I tell people I'd rather be pissed off than pissed on. But then
yeah,
occasionally, maybe on a great date, but either way works for me. But really, but I'd rather be pissed off. I mean, I'd rather be pissed on than pissed off. I just refuse to let things anger me, and I just find humor in everything. I just won't do it, you know. And you touched on something that really gets to me as far as community and about gender and about being in a box. I live in a place called Palm Springs, California. Palm Springs, California has a huge gay population, right? I mean, our desert is super inclusive. We're very proud of the fact that we have great communities here, and they all contribute, right? However, lately, it's been the most bizarre thing where people that I've had friends for 40 years, right, in the gay community, tell me, it's just not the same anymore. It's just so bizarre that gay people are turning on other gay people. You're either not gay enough or you're not this enough. It's like, well, what the fuck does that mean? You know what I mean? And it's so when you mention that about people calling you out, like, oh, like you don't have the right to say that, or you don't, you need to stay over there. It's like, why? Who are you to tell me what feelings I have, what experiences I have, what growth I have, what I can contribute? Who are you to tell me that I have to
mm,
go back in that box, right? It's
mm.
tragic what's going on with that. And I'm glad that you're aware of it and also able to push back on it the way you, maybe not push back is the right word, but how you're able to move through it, flow around it. I think that's really great.
I feel that part of my role here, like I am quite public about this, and there are risks. There are actual, real, genuine physical risks.
Oh
I'm,
yeah.
I'm, I'm really, I am fairly insulated, I think. Like no one knows here, and I walk out in the street, and but it just doesn't crop up for me. But online, I talk about this all the time, and it's very human though, like in our tribal nature to exclude others, make them wrong, like. But what that is a really interesting. And I've asked people, like, why is it? What is it about me that offends you so much? What is it? And and if you're offended by me, who represents a different model of the world to the model of the world that you subscribe to, or your community, or your school, or your church, or your, all of those things, they have models of the world that say, this is what the world is like, and anything outside of that is wrong. And we have to make it wrong and we have to call it out. And they are, I think, afraid of being challenged about their worldview. So if my worldview is wrong about you, what else is it wrong about? You know, like, and we hold on to this worldview that is safe
Yeah.
and reliable and predictable. And and you're challenging my view of the world, my view of, I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person, I believe, but scripture.
I think it comes back to what we talked about with fear. People are afraid of things that it's unknown to them. They don't know anything about it. They feel challenged. They feel threatened. It's like slavery back in the day, you know. We can't educate these people because if we educate them, they'll be better than us. So we have to keep keeping them down. We have to keep keeping people down. We have to keep
Mm,
people in a box. We have to segregate people. We have to name people. We have to give people titles because it's easier to keep them down if we give them a title.
mm,
And it's easier for our tribe to be against their tribe if we give them a title. And God forbid they don't think like us, because if they don't think like us, then obviously they're bad. So we have to keep them down
yeah,
for
yeah,
that, right? It's like
yeah,
you stepping out into your authentic self threatens people. And I have no answer to why that is, but it does. And it's got to be challenging for you. I don't know the community you live in. In our community, it's not even a challenge for at all, except
mm,
inner challenge. But in a lot of areas, there's fear around becoming your authentic self.
yeah, oh, yeah. Like, never mind the gender, never mind the trans bit or any of that stuff, like fear of change, fear of who. Do you remember your gooey self? We're talking about that.
Yeah.
You can hang on to your gooey self
Hmm.
because your gooey self is safe, reliable, familiar, trusted. You may hate your gooey self. You may think, I hate this gooey self, but actually, it's my identity. And if I let go of that gooey self identity, who am I going to become? And am I gonna cope? Am I gonna survive? Are people gonna accept me? Is the tribe still gonna accept me? Is the non-gooey version of, the all polished up, smooth, beautiful, shiny Gary, who's what happened to gooey Gary?
We
Like,
liked gooey gear, but
we like gooey Gary much
the
more.
thing about the goo is, you know, like you said, we love to be victims, right? The world loves to be victims now. Everybody's a victim. And so I could just sit there and go, oh, every time I try to pull away from this goo, you know, it's
Yeah,
gooey, it pulls me back. But I refuse to do that.
yeah,
Right now it's Play-Doh for me. It's silly putty.
yeah,
I'm in it goofing around trying to say, okay, I know I'm goo and I'm okay with the goo.
yeah,
What I'm working on isn't concerning myself with the goo or how to get out of the goo. It's what do I want to become when I leave the goo? You know,
yeah.
what type of butterfly do I want to be? The little yellow butterfly who's having sex in my
Mm,
backyard? Do I want to be a
mm,
monarch butterfly? I mean, what is it that I want
mm.
to do when I leave the goo?
That's a very hard question for most people to answer because there is firstly a big permission piece. Who am I to aspire to being a monarch butterfly? I'm just
Mm.
a little bloody one of those teeny white ones or something like that. I can never be that. I'm not. Our family doesn't do monarch butterflies. Our community doesn't do monarch butterflies. Who am I to imagine I could be a monarch butterfly? Like, oh, but that, and then people, um, they say, oh, what are the things I wanted to say?
Have you ever heard?
It's
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, have you ever heard Nelson Mandela's presidential acceptance speech from 1994 when he got out of prison and became president of South Africa?
I'm gonna say yes, but secondly, I don't really remember it.
It's exactly what you said. And it's all about, I have it in my bathroom. I've literally had it in my bathroom, the same beat up piece of paper. It's in a frame for ever since it came out in 1994. And it's all about you're playing small. Nelson
Um,
Mandela, write it down, 1994. And it's about who are you to play small so that others don't feel small around you? Who are you
mm,
to say to yourself that you're not good enough? I mean, he
mm,
goes on and on. It's one of the most beautiful. I don't know if he wrote it. I don't know if it's original, but I know he said it, and
mm.
it's just what you're saying. We get ourselves like that, And I told a good friend of mine. I said after my first wife died of cancer, I was just a complete disaster, right? And so I decided I'm no longer going to be like this. So I took a huge sticky note and I wrote on there boulders in my river. And I said, here's all the things I need to remove, all the boulders I need to remove out of my river so that my life can flow again and I can get through all this stuff. And my friend would always call me and bust my chop and say, all right, dickhead, how many boulders you got still? Or did you get rid of these boulders? The other day, this was like 8 years ago I did this. The other day I did a podcast with an amazing young lady named Meredith Alexander. Her daughter was almost killed by a boulder falling on her. And it started them on this entire life-changing path, right? And she said something, because I told her my little boulder story, and she said uh, something about it's not about removing the boulders. I thought, oh my God, it's not about removing the boulders in our life. It's about how we navigate around the boulders and how we still stay in the flow. We just find a different path through.
There will always be boulders.
Yes.
And the key here is not to give your power away to the boulder,
Yeah.
because I can't have the flow, that narrative. I can't have the flow in my river until the boulders are gone. You can have the flow in your river right now. This is a decision. The boulders, this is a new learning for me, like, oh, I did an exercise with my coach recently, but she said, who is Bobbi? Who is Bobbi? Like,
Mm.
and like the highest expression of me, the language, the words, and I say, like, I'm courageous, I'm powerful, I'm a brat actually. So, well, I'm a lot of things, right? None of those things are, um, I've got a tax return that I've got to do, or I've got like the rent to pay, or I've got this income issue, like all of that stuff. They are the boulders, and I am who is Bobbi? It's the flow, and it's beautiful, and it's now, and I get to choose it now, and I get to that boulder. Okay, I'll deal with that boulder, and that's dealt with, and then I'll deal with that boulder, and for a while, I pick it up and I put it down. It's not me. That's not my identity. My identity is that flow, that beautiful flow. And you too, like, who is Gary? Like, oh my God, Gary is awesome. Gary is like, look at you. You're
That's
just
true.
funny and smiling and easy to talk to and engaging and all of it, and you got a wife with heels, so,
Big heels, like high heels. Thank goodness we're back going out, man. That's a great thing for me. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, because you get to wear them now, right?
Exactly. I almost broke my ankles, but I look great in the heels and the pantyhose. I do, but it's just still I almost broke my freaking ankles. Um, well, I love everything that you're doing, and I promised I would try to get you out of here within a reasonable amount of time. And I want to before we shut off, I want to get everyone information about what you do and all that stuff. But but Bobby, I do have one last question. I lied earlier and I said I had only one question, but I'm a liar. I'm just a freaking liar. Um, I have two questions, and my second question is if there's something that means something to Bobby Barrington, a quote, a thought, a message, something you've been through. There's something that really means something to your heart. Um, what would that be? What would you like to say? What would you like to leave us with a message before we sign off here today?
Oh, I think we've touched on quite a few of the things, like I often say, like, one day there are no more one days.
Mm.
Like there was a time in my life when I was like, it's the boulder story, like one day when all my boulders are gone, then I will, or one day I am gonna do the thing that I was dreamed of doing because I'm, like me. There's a book in me. There's many books in me actually. There's a business in me. There's a family. There's a relationship. There's all of these things that I'm going to do one day, and then one day there are no more one days, and you leave the music unplayed. Yeah, life is short. There's one beautiful time that we have on this planet to cherish, to to love, to have joy, to have freedom, to not be frightened. Well, I'm not going to say, I think we're going to be frightened, but the fear is not what's going to kill us. I think the regret might be the thing that kills us, actually. Yeah, like, Susan Jeffers, feel the fear and do it anyway. Or
Mhm.
even that expression that Roosevelt said, like, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, which I didn't understand until recently when I realized that it's the fear of the emotion. Like, we don't like to feel the emotion. We don't like it, do we? But for me, that's been such a huge area of growth is the capacity to recognize emotions in my body, be aware of them, and to learn somatic techniques to actually sit with it, process it, learn from it, grow through it, come back into equanimity, come back into the to present moment. I do things. I go outside. I go for walks. Like I hug a tree, walk in the grass. These meditate, sing, play. I started playing pickleball. It's fun. Things like that.
It's all the rage here in the desert is pickleball.
Oh, I've been watching the videos. Not bad. Yeah. So that would be my thing. Like I said earlier, tell a better story, and that awareness around the narratives that we. This is why coaching is so valuable because we cannot see for ourselves because we're so in it. We cannot see what we cannot see. And when you have someone else who is able to, you know, ask questions, listen to the language that you use and get into the nitty-gritty of, the strategies that we use on how we think, and Coaching saved my life for sure, literally. And my coach teaches me how to live so much. And this is my gift to the world. The ripple of that through what I say here today, what I say, I do a lot of podcasts, what I say on all podcasts, the articles I write, the speeches I give, the ripple of possibility, the ripple that life doesn't have to be that way unless you choose it. You know, like if you want to spend your life watching Netflix on the sofa, I am delighted for you if that is your thing, you know. But if you are sitting there thinking, I wish there were more, I wish I could, then I'm interested because it doesn't have to be like that. And we are more powerful than we know, stronger than we can ever give ourselves credit, and our capacity to expand is limitless. We are human beings. We can do any shit we want. We are extraordinary. And this planet is abundant. There is so much abundance on this planet. Oh, we are so fortunate. Like the time we live now and the possibilities that exist for all of us, if we allow ourselves to unlock the doors of the prisons that we've created for ourselves, you know, to liberate ourselves from these boundaries that we've set ourselves or we've bought into that may not be ours. I am beyond grateful to be able to do this now, to speak with you, to live in the world at this. I'm getting tearful now, actually. It's quite emotional, you know, like I care. I really care. We can do better as
Yeah,
humans. We can do so much better. And that's my job, actually, to shine lights on possibility and to hold your hand as you step forward into the darkness because you're scared. And that's what I'll do. Yeah.
I love that. I love
Mm.
that because we live in so much fear, like we talked about, and like the saying is, I'm sure I'll screw it up, but you know what they people say on their deathbed, they don't regret the chances that they took, they regret the
Mm.
chances that they didn't take.
Mm. Mm.
And that's not going to happen to Bobby. And
Or
it
you.
takes it. Well, I'm doing this podcast. I actually have a real job, but I do this because I get to meet amazing people like you and share their story. Um, because we can do better. For some reason, we've all chosen to cut ourselves off from other people, and the bizarre thing is we've done it voluntarily. Like you don't believe like I do, or so I'm not going to talk to you, or I can't possibly talk to you because I might actually like you or agree with you about something which would completely screw up where I am, right? Um, but I think that you're seeing your gift is that you've been able to see life now from two sides. You lived it one way for a long time, and now you're going to live it another way for a long time. And you just have so much to give, so much spirit, so much goodness. Um, it's going to be a good ride for you, kiddo. I'm excited to watch.
And I've still got boulders in my river, and I've still got fears, but you know, and I still start cycle through this, you know, scarcity mindset. You know, this addiction to suffering that I do. You know, because I've got past stories that I, you know, like still have a grip on me, and you know, like being aware of that, and each day it's work for me. You know, I have my coach, you know, we have a Telegram link, and but I am devoted to discovering who I can become on this planet. I am devoted to I want to know what's possible for me. I want to know. That is that is the most exciting thing for me. I want to know. And I want to know so much more than I'm afraid of the journey of finding out. You know, there's a bit of me that wants to stay in the familiar and the safe, and I hate it. And my unconscious mind, she's a little girl, and she needs nurturing and comforting, and like it's okay, come with us, like. So there's this part of me that is like, my coach, she said, what's your boldest vision, Bobby? And I have a vision of creating a 3-day event for women called the Empowered Women's Congress, and it's like Tony Robbins for women sort of thing, like. And there I am standing on the stage, opening it on the first day, and like there's 2,000 women in the room, and it's just like, what does that look like? That transformation,
Yes.
like.
Yes.
And then I think, what is the vision that makes that my little vision? I said, oh my God, how can I like 10x that one? And I have this vision of like, like oh, what's her name? Like I forgot to say Taylor Swift, like the Taylor
Oh,
Swift moment, you know, what could a tour like that look like for motivational, inspirational speaking? Like when you've got 100,000 people in a stadium, and it's called Inspiration Rock, and I'm on that stage, and it's my Freddie Mercury moment at Live Aid. Like, what does that feel like? What is it? And why not?
well, that just
What?
gave me goosebumps right there. Visualizing you as Freddie Mercury when he does "Mama," ooh, and the whole
That's the
fucking
one.
crowd is going up. I just got goosebumps all over, man. That's just we just watched the
And why
Cream show
not?
again.
No
Ah,
one gets to say I can't do that.
no, no,
No
you're
one.
the only one. And having that, having that visualization and the manifestation and the allowing yourself to visualize that truthfully, truthfully, not just saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I want to do this," but no, 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 no. Where you truly go there, where you could do it, where you truly believe you could do it, where you truly manifest it all the way down into your DNA and your soul that this is what I see myself doing. And then it happens. The universe rewards action. The universe will always give you what you put out there as long as it's what you really, really desire.
And the things that stop me are me, and the me that. So I'm in this space here, and I'm by myself. I am. I feel I've shown up pretty well here, Gary. I think this has been one of the best podcasts that I've done of all the podcasts. I've done lots, and this has been great. This has been great. And then we come to the end, and I turn it off, and then I'm by myself,
Yeah.
and staying in that integrity, in that energy, when it's quiet and no one's watching, that is a big challenge. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
quiet time. I call it my 2 a.m. time where I'm still
Mm,
laying there and I'm staring at the ceiling or I'm thinking, and that's where all the fears creep in, all the little gremlins creep in into my mind and say, your podcast sucks. And, you're a horrible real estate broker. You've only been doing it for 35 years, but you suck. And your wife's sleeping with somebody else. And your kids don't like it. It's just like, and your dog's going to run away. And your cat doesn't like you. And you just, you say to yourself, I say, self, what the fuck's wrong with you? You have to change that mindset. And it's like your thoughts are like that canoe in the river. Your thoughts are like that boat in
mm,
the river. You have to just take those thoughts and you have to maneuver them to a different space. And it's like
mm,
you said when the people called you out in that community, like, well, you don't have the right. You chose to not get mad. You
mm,
chose to. You brought up Tony Robbins, and I'm sure you've heard the story. Real quick, I know you got to go. Tony Robbins has a great story where he decided he used to blow up all the time. He used to get mad at stuff, and he used to get pissed off, and he used to get get all the time. He would blow up at stuff, right? Because he's a control freak. He's a power guy. He's awesome. I love Tony. I don't mean that in a bad way. So he had made confirmed reservations a bunch of times at this hotel, and he he gets there and flights are delayed. This is before he had his private jet and all this stuff. And his flight was delayed, and he shows up and he goes to the front desk, and of course he checks under an alias, right? He doesn't check into Tony Robbins because otherwise everyone would go, "Oh my God, Tony Robbins here." So he can't remember what alias he checked, right? That they checked. So he's trying to go through it with this lady, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. He's fucking exhausted. He's been traveling. He's burnt out. He's done 100 shows, right? And he looks at this lady. He goes, "Lady, I'm starting to get peeved." And he just started laughing because normally he would have lost it. And so now that was one of his words he uses. I'm peeved instead of I'm
Yeah.
pissed or I'm mad. And he just made himself laugh. He made the girl laugh. And he said, obviously, you know who I am. I'm Tony Robbins, blah, 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 blah. Just find me anything. I'm exhausted. And it all worked out. He didn't blow up. He didn't try to get her fired. He didn't make a scene. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so what you told me about, what some people do online to you and how you handle it is very beautiful.
Mm.
It's hard to do because we're emotional people, right?
Well, it's a choice moment. Am I going to give my power to this person? Am I going to like let that comment or the person who cuts me off in traffic or the queue jumper or, all of those things? Am I going to let them affect me emotionally? Am I going to let them affect the rest of my day because I'm give my power away to that? That's a choice moment. I choose not
Yeah.
to. I have boundaries. You're not going to let me have a shitty day because of your behavior and like because of what was going on in you, like your own woundings, like that's your shit. This is mine. I'm not taking that on. But I
No.
do feel that I have every time that happens is an opportunity for me to educate, to explain, to raise the bar, to set a higher standard, about what's possible for us as humanity.
Yeah.
Actually, because
I used to tell my boys all the time the old Buddha saying or Tao saying or Gandhi, whoever the hell said it, but he said, if I hand you a present and you choose not to accept the present, who is still holding the present? Well, I am. And if I try to give you anger or hate and you choose not to accept the anger or hate, who's still holding on to the anger and hate? Well, I am. So if someone has that in them where they just choose that for some reason they have to take it out on Bobby for whatever reason and you don't accept it, well, guess what? It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies, right?
exactly.
Well, you've been wonderful. We can go on forever. You're absolutely fabulous. Been a glorious time, and I'm so grateful. But I can't let you go without telling us what was that opportunity that you were offering us as far as your booklet? Tell us about your coaching. Tell us everything about Bobby and where we can find you.
You can find me in Queensland.
I wish
No,
I
but
could go to Queensland. I would love to
well,
go.
you know where the airport is. just,
Yes, I
just
do.
just need a credit card and a and a passport, I think. So I'm Bobby. It's Bobbi. So my website's Bobbi Barrington, like one word, .com. And I'm also on socials as Bobbi Barrington, like LinkedIn and Instagram. Um, and I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm a storyteller. And I'm a trans woman, incidentally, which is only part of the story, but it actually gives me some really unique and interesting insights into the world. And I do feel like in many ways I have a kind of a transcendental gender that sits over the top. But I've really recently created this lovely gift. It's a free download. It's called How to Feel Alive Again. And it's for those of us who get to a certain time in life where you start to feel a little disillusioned about, is this all there is? You know, and you start to feel a bit fed up with being fed up, and you start, particularly for the ladies, and you start to feel like you're giving away all of your time and your energy to other people, like the kids and the schools and the families and the elderly parents maybe, and you forgot the dream that was once you. And when you were younger, you were so excited about life and what it held for you. And then time goes by, tick tock, and you end up on that hamster wheel of obligation and collapse into bed at the end of the day and thinking, is this all there is? And where's the off ramp to this thing? It's not what I signed up for. So this is my gift, Feel Alive Again. And it's 14 days of, email support from me in contemplating some of the questions around your own life and what it is that you want and what you remember when you were little, and maybe even what does your 80-year-old want to say to you, from the future. What would you want him or her to say about how you lived your life and you got to that age? And so I would love, this is not for me, this is for you, and this is like a little way for people to join my community. And my business is evolving. I'm just learning it at the same time. Like we're all on that edge. We're all on the edge of what we know and what we don't know, and I'm constantly learning and growing. And so I'm going to stuff it up and get it wrong, and that's okay. But this is my gift, and if we put the link in the show notes, that would be amazing. So this has been awesome, Gary. This has been such a great conversation, and I hope that we have another one at some point. I hope I can get to come and visit in California, but I don't think for the next 3.5 years I'll be coming to America. And I wish I could, but because everyone loses when that's the case.
Yeah,
It's just
well, I'll try to get to Australia one of these days, but this has been fabulous, and it's interesting because I haven't been chatting with a trans woman or a former man or a current woman, or I've just been chatting with Bobbi, who is just an absolute gift, just a beautiful soul. This has been a great chat. I loved it very, very much, and I just can't thank you enough for being here and joining me. So, everybody, you've just been gifted with a little bit of time with Bobbi Barrington. Please look up Bobbi Barrington on her website, which is her name. Find her on Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other platforms. Get that free booklet, that free download, that 14 days, because we could all use it. And you've seen Bobbi and what she's about. And so it's going to be good stuff for sure. So, all right, everybody. Bobbi, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. I'll see you.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.